I'm Vicki Hill from KISS 107.1 and Vice Chair of Women of Colors. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tonight, in place for Women of Colors tonight. We are doing a forum tonight. Tonight, our forum is going to be on veterans and mental health. But first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about Women of Colors. Women of Colors has been in existence for 31 years now, and we are providing services throughout Saginaw County. And I'm talking services from prevention to mentoring the youth to mentoring the juveniles. We're in Saginaw County we're over at Bridgeport. We're at Thompson Middle School. We're at Arthur Hill School. We also are at Success Academy, as well as we go into some adult places as well, such as TriCap and Emmaus House and Holy Missions. So as you can see, Women of Colors is on the move and doing great services for Saginaw County. We also have a huge event at close to the end of the year, which is Warm a Child for Winter. That is the event that we give away almost 1,000 coats every year, and we're glad to do it. We are doing our best to help the community the best way that we know how. We do a lot of forums, and this is one of our forums. Every month, we put on a forum at the end of the month. We're just trying to bring awareness to situations that are happening, situations that people aren't talking about. Women of Colors has decided that we can do this. We can bring awareness to everyone who is watching and listening. Tonight, you will hear a forum on veterans and mental health. Although we love our veterans, but what about their mental health? How are they doing? How did they survive the things that they went through whenever they went overseas? What took place? We want to find out more about our veterans. We appreciate them, but we also appreciate the fact that we need to also talk about the mental health situation as well. So tonight, the host is going to be Fenobia Dallas, a wonderful person, and she's going to host this show for us tonight, along with several other veterans that are going to be talking about their mental health situations. So I would like to introduce to you Dr. Fenobia Dallas, U.S. Navy Lieutenant. Hello, Dr. Dallas.
Hi, Miss Vicki Hill. Thank you this evening for Women of Colors to bring a show for us to talk about veterans and mental health. And Vicki, will you introduce the rest of our guests, please?
Absolutely, Dr. Dallas. First of all, we have here in one corner Darren K. Humes. He is Department of Michigan VFW Co-Chair, Mental Health Director. Then there is Tracy Nagy, VFW District 4 of Michigan Senior Vice Commander, and Doug Brinker. He is Department of Michigan VFW Mental Health. Welcome. And back to you, Dr. Fenobia Dallas.
Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Thank you, our audience, for listening to us tonight and watching us live stream if you're doing so. We appreciate you thinking about us veterans in not only our daily lives, but also the things that we've dealt with in our service and how that's impacting our mental health today. So those are the things that we're going to discuss. So what I'd like to do is introduce each of my panelists and give them about 2 or 3 minutes to just introduce themselves. Tell us who you are, where you are currently employed or what you're doing during the day, and why you are interested in not only serving your brothers and sisters in arms, but also why are you concerned about their mental health? So let's start with Tracy.
Thank you, Fenobia. My name is Tracy Nagy. I am, as introduced, the District 4 of Michigan Senior Vice Commander for the VFW. I was an Army nurse, and I work during the day. My full-time real job is I'm a team leader for Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan. I think veterans' mental health is important because it's not something that we talk about, and there's a stigma attached to it a lot of times in the military. You got to stay strong and never let them see a sweat, sort of thing. So it's something that needs to be talked about more because bottling it up does not help.
Thanks. Darren, what about you?
Good afternoon, Doc. My name is Darren Humes. I'm a post commander at VFW Post 99 Bridgeport, also co-director of Department of Michigan VFW Mental Health, U.S. Army veteran, disabled veteran. Now I spend my time working with veterans through the VFW, working with veterans and organizations that help veterans with mental health. Um, you see the stress on veterans' face is the same stress that you have behind your eyes and your face. And you understand the challenges that they go through every day. And you spend your time trying to help each other get through the day. That's what I spend my day doing.
Thanks. Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself and what are you doing? I think we lost Doug's volume. Doug, we can't hear you. Okay. Nope. We still don't hear you, Doug. So I think we can work on your microphone in a minute and then we'll get back to you. I served in the United States Navy for 7 years. And as Tracy mentioned, we deal with issues that most people don't deal with because we're in uniform and we're expected to simply take it and keep moving. And taking the time to be able to de-stress and work those stressful situations off is not always available to us. When you're in the military, you're actually serving 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You may not be actual on duty during that time, but at any time you can be called to serve, to take up your post, to deploy, whatever. So that's also in the back of our minds. Was that you, Doug? Did we pick you back up again? Okay, we're still working with Doug. We're gonna get back to Doug. He's our silent veteran right now. But one of the things I want to talk about, and I want what I call our experts to talk to us about, is a stressful situation that you all encountered while you were in the service. And how did you handle that situation? What stressful situation did you encounter? And how did you handle it? Tracy?
Well, when I was overseas, I was an ER nurse, emergency nurse. So it was pretty much one entire stressful situation. You have patients coming in and you're in, it was a combat zone. So there's always that, looming fear. So the entire thing was a stressful situation. And really, as for how to manage it or how to deal with it, we didn't deal with it the right ways, obviously, right? So we, you mostly, like I said, bottled it up. Never let them see you sweat, bury it down deep, and just keep pushing along. Years later, you're going to have to deal with that. So talk to friends, de-stress, have a debriefing. Is usually a good idea. Would have been a better idea.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. What about you, Darren? What was that situation that you just didn't think you'd get through it? Very stressful. And how can you look back at it now from this perspective and deal with it?
Well, for me, it's something I still struggle with every day. Just like Tracy said, when you see something that you never expected to see, something that you may at one point saw on TV in a movie that you actually seeing live action right in front of you, and time just stops and freezes for a moment, and things will play out before you even react, and then your body and your emotions kind of like catches up to that moment and reactions to it going forward. But and like she says, it's you had to bury it, deal with it. It was times it was told, get angry, accept it, and move forward. You don't have time to assess your feelings, your emotions, and stuff like that. It's just you got to keep going forward, react. Downtime, like you said, bottled up, drugged up, anything to numb the situation, to numb the feeling, and pretty much act like it never happened. While you
Sleep,
there,
man,
you don't
sleep.
talk about it, you don't assess it then as something that happened. You've dealt with it that moment, move forward, and then later on, it comes back and replays throughout your day and your life.
Yeah.
And it's a
Yeah.
struggle.
That
Doug?
it is.
Doug, great. Doug, thank you for finally pulling out the earplugs out of the podcast so
Yeah.
we can actually hear you. So Doug, tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your service and a stressful situation that you dealt with or didn't deal with then, and it's impacting you now.
Thank you, Dr. Shipmate. Doug Brinker, I'm U.S. Navy first, and then a Michigan Army National Guard soldier second. So my roots are embedded into the United States Navy. My story is one of, just like all of us, men of deep darkness in some areas. For me personally, my struggle started when I was in the Navy and helped pilot a Navy ship through 40-foot waves, 20-foot swells, and 45-degree rolls on the way to Beirut, Lebanon in November of 1982 aboard the USS Mullinix. And after I get out of the Navy, I never made a connection to life. I never felt that I had purpose. From everything that I've experienced early in life to even my discharge time. And sadly, August 7th, 1999, I lost all hope and help in myself, for myself, with no purpose, and attempted to take my life. And it was real. And I didn't follow a support system. In February of 2001, a second attempt occurred. I forced myself in October of 2002 to rejoin Michigan Army National Guard and volunteered to deploy to Iraq in the spring of 2004. And ever since then, I've continued to work on my recovery. I work in Jackson, Michigan with Lifeways, the mental health certified behavioral health clinic, as a veteran peer support. And I have the honor to work with these fine comrades to serve over 32,000 men and women in the Michigan VFW in mental health, which has been a strong impact on many of our veterans serving in the department. When we host our department conferences, conventions, we do have people come up who are hurting, who are struggling, who are maybe even contemplating that this is going to be their last weekend.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug. And that brings up for me a couple of things that resonate in terms of how I deal with that stress. Before I say that, I want to point out to our viewers There is a number of phone numbers, contact information that's streaming at the bottom of our Facebook live feed. Please call those numbers. If there's anything that we're saying that resonates with you, post something in a Facebook page, call the numbers. We're here to help. And I think that you've been hearing our panelists say that it's not just facing up to the demons that they had to deal with, but part of that for us is sharing those stories with like-minded individuals. It's always difficult to go to a civilian counselor because if they don't have that military background, they don't really understand why we joined and why we wear this uniform. Okay. But we do. Call us, contact us. Now, my way of dealing with stress is a little bit different from the stories that you've heard. My way of dealing with stress is being very structured. I am a planner. People who know me will tell you, if you don't contact her a week before, 2 weeks before, her time is not flexible. I've learned that I don't like to be blindsided. I like to know things in advance. And that was difficult when you're serving in the military. And sometimes you had to move someplace at midnight at a moment's notice. But being in the service, I knew that that was the expectation. But when I came out of the Navy, my bubble was to make sure that everything that I did was planned. And that's how I dealt with the stress and some of those situations that I couldn't resolve when I was in the Navy, because sometimes you don't have control over those situations. We all deal with stress in different ways to manage our lives. For our listeners and our viewers, if you don't have a way to deal with that stress, call one of those numbers. Contact one of our panelists. We're here to help you, to listen to you. We don't have all the solutions, but sometimes if you just talk to somebody about your problem, you'll realize that you actually have the solution. It's just a matter of you hearing yourself acknowledge the problem that you have. So let's think about that. Tracy, what do you do to help someone today who comes to you with a problem? What is your, not necessarily solution, but what do you talk with them about? What do you counsel them on? How do you help them re-engage with life today?
First, you need to understand what the problem is, what that stressor is. So you talk, you listen, they talk, I listen. You know, let them get it out. Let them get it off their chests to somebody who will understand, who may have been in a similar situation, like-minded individuals, as it were, as you said, who can understand in a unique way. So you listen. That's the number one primary, is to listen. And, you know, if there are resources that you can recommend, great. You know, get them to somebody. I am not a mental health expert. So that's really what I can do, is I can listen and I can direct them to the appropriate resources, to the people that know, you know, specifically how to handle and how to address those things. But just be there, be a friend. That's what I can do.
Yeah. Darren, what about you?
Well, when you engage a veteran in crisis, first thing you got to do is take off your shoes and put on their shoes, because you have to see the veteran, understand the crisis that they're in, and let them know that you see them. You talking to this person. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to listen to you. I'm here for you at this moment. I'm not trying to fix your problem, but I'm going to walk with you through your problem as long as you need me here. The thing about it is, when you make that veteran connection, because most veterans have the same issues, they have the same thoughts, they have the same moment, like you say, structured and stuff like that. And when that bubble and structure is disrupted, you're just in a whirlpool, and you have to convey to that person, I understand what you're feeling. I understand that we lived in two different worlds, and this world is seemed to be such stressful to navigate. When you come back after being in a structured world, and once you make that connection, you just listen, like Tracy said. Understand you we're not mental health uh, people. We're vet to vet. I'm just here. I'm your ear. I'm doing a check on you. I'm here to direct you to who can help you further, or to get you to the help that you need. I'm just the shoulder. I'm the hand. I'm the arm. I'm the back that you can climb on right now and dump all your stuff on. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Doug.
As a peer support specialist, someone who has lived experience, we're taught in training to do 90% listening and 10% talking. Because it's not about us. It's like what Darren said. You have to walk in their shoes. And if you're not willing to do that, you need to warm transfer to someone who will. An example, about 2.5 to 3 years ago, a friend of mine who speaks on suicide prevention from Australia reached out to me and said, hey mate, is it okay if I give you this Marine's phone number, or give your number to this Marine? He's in Wisconsin and he's feeling unsafe. I said, absolutely. 25-year-old Marine. He turned his best friend in California in for a welfare check because his best friend indicated that he wanted to harm himself. And then he became suicidal himself. 12:30 in the morning, he called. We talked to almost 3:30 in that morning. Mind you, I still had to go to work, but I took time to listen. And today, he's engaged to get married. He's happy. He's successful because somebody took the time, like Darren said, lift somebody up when they're falling down.
Yeah. Listen with no strings, no assumptions, no nothing. Yeah. Thank you. I've got a question that comes from someone's posted on our Facebook page. Do any of you have triggers today? And if so, how do you handle them? Okay. So Tracy, what's your trigger? And I'm laughing because of the trigger, but it's, again, when you're in the service, there's a lot of different triggers and you have to figure out a lot of different ways of dealing with them. But, yeah, I think anything that we can help our brothers and sisters in arms with in terms of helping them with those triggers, I think it's going to be beneficial for them. So what are your triggers?
We all have triggers. Let's face it. You don't get out of this without them, right? We all have triggers. I mean, mine, like my primary issue is like safety issue. I always have issues feeling safe all the time, and it's just working through that. But the most important thing is to recognize what your triggers are. You have to get to the root, dig down, figure out what those triggers are. And only from there can you find out how to address them. So once you know actually what your triggers are, it gives you kind of a better understanding. And that's where you start to work through them. Okay, I know that this is an issue for me. So I'm either going to, one, I'm going to avoid it if it's something that's avoidable, or two, face it head on, understanding that this is an issue for me, and I need to, again, push through, right? Because that's what we do. So it depends on what the trigger is. I address some of them one way, some of them another way. Yeah.
Yeah. Darren, do you have any
Yeah.
triggers today? Yeah.
Well, a trigger is a trigger. My biggest one, like Trace said, is my safety and being around crowds or too many things moving around you that you can't track, or you're tracking everything that's going on around you, assessing everything. Anything out of your normal comfort that's disrupted will cause you to get angry at times, to react, jerk reaction, or outbursts, and trying to control those by different things that we learned in toolboxes and stuff like that, to understand your stressor, to bring it down a step to where you don't overreact to things. But sometimes you have no control. Once that trigger is triggered, then it causes other trigger, like a domino effect. And that's when you kind of withdraw back into yourself. People will say you shut down, or you become avoidance and stuff like that. But in a sense, to me and some others, it's a safety for everybody else and ourselves, our personal safety, and for your safety, to let us assess, adjust, and calm down. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yep.
Remove yourself
Doug.
from the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Doug, do you have any triggers?
How long do we have? how long's the show?
Okay, do you have a trigger? One.
Do I have a trigger? In Iraq, if a threat became apparent in our convoy, we could take our truck and just shove them off the road. We can't do that here in the United States of America. We'll go to jail. That's one of my bigger triggers that I'm getting a much better hold on, because I've learned we can only focus on what we can control, and just the heck with the rest of what we can't. And so I've used a lot of my grounding techniques that I've learned in peer support training. I've learned about doing deep breathing exercises. And I've even now taken up imagining problems floating down the river on leaves, as the psychologists encourage you to do, is let your problems go on down the river, because new problems are coming up the stream. One of the things that I've learned since I still tend, especially even in bigger crowds, I still tend to look around quite often. Even though I know I'm in a safe environment, I'm still wired to pay attention to my surroundings. And sometimes maybe some of the listeners, they don't know how to pay attention to being vigilant. It's like walking in a dark environment. You wouldn't walk by yourself. You would try to get some friends to go with you, or carry a siren of some sort, what have you, whatever. So yeah, my triggers, sometimes it's it's the most goofiest things that I continue to allow to escalate. And what I work on now is I stay grounded by being part of the VFW, belonging to the Governor's Challenge, belonging to the military coalition here in Jackson, Michigan. By staying involved, A, it's helping my recovery, but B, I'm helping someone else in their recovery, possibly by being involved.
Yeah, I actually kind of chuckled when you were talking about the driving thing. I'm notorious for always driving at least 5 miles an hour above the speed limit. I think I got that from my dad. He volunteered for World War II in the Army, so he was on the part of the D-Day landing, and he was actually a supply truck driver. And so my dad always drove very fast, and so I think I picked that up. And now I've gotten to the point where I don't care anymore, because if I get a ticket, I'll pay it. But I also have, those Navy plates on my car. If anybody's listening, that's not me driving fast. It's my twin sister or something. But in terms of me, in terms of a trigger, like I said, that trigger result is being a planner. Because when I was in the service, I was the middle manager. I was a division officer. So I had responsibilities for the sailors in my division that I was responsible for. But also I had to be accountable to my senior officers in terms of getting things done. So I was kind of stuck in the middle. So that was a very stressful position for me in terms of managing people's lives. And what do I do to resolve that? I do the same thing today as a university professor. I manage my college students' lives. So I guess I'm good at it. But, figuring out how to manage those stressors is one thing. But what do we do for what I call fun time? What are the things that we do to relax? We know we've got those stressors. We know we've got the triggers. We know how to deal with them. But what do we do just to enjoy ourselves? Take some time off from things. What do we do? Tracy, what do you do?
I'm a crafter. So I like to, because it focuses your mind, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of crafting. I do all different kinds, but it's something that focuses my mind, and I can shut out other things and just focus on that, and that lets everything just kind of relax, right? And we're big campers. Just get out, get away from things, get away from the stressors, right? It's either that avoidance or push through it thing, right? Like I said. So it's, camping and crafting for me. Those are the things that allow me to take my mind out of that place and focus it elsewhere, just until I can unwind, and then I can address it.
Yeah. Darren, what do you do for fun?
Well, when I can, I like to go fishing by myself, where there's nobody around, nobody to disturb my zen, just me, the water, the pole, and nature. If I can't do that, I try to find a quiet park, sit there alone, or take pictures. There's a lake park out on Wick Park out on McCarthy in Saginaw Township with a big lake and trail and woods. I love going out there because there's usually not a lot of people. You can walk through the woods, you can sit by the lake, and I just like quiet, and then calm down from everything else, get away from all the noise, all the traffic. Because just like you say, if I'm driving down the road and somebody veers across that line into my lane, I will instantly feel like I'm being attacked. And like Doug said, with your truck, I want to move them back over, or just hey, you care more about your car than I care about mine, because I'm just that furious because you traveled across my space. And so to get away from being like that, I like my alone time.
Mhm.
I have a chair in my backyard early in the morning before the world wakes up. I sit outside under the tree and just listen to the world being silent before the noise wake up.
So
That's
Darren,
what I like
is
to
that
do.
why you do the toothpick thing?
Yes. If I drop this toothpick, it's like uncontrollable anger and words will come out my mouth. So I try to
So
chew on
so
this toothpick to hold it back.
so tell us about the toothpick.
The toothpick, it's one of my things I learned to channel my anger and my thoughts. When I get triggered and frustrated, I bite down. It gives me a second to think before I speak, gives me a second to think before I react. Um, I'm real sensitive to movement and vibration. And even when my family moves around the house, sometimes they have to say a trigger word, a call sign to let me know that they're coming or they're moving around me. Because if they come up on me and I don't know they're there, I'll react. And so then some people find it strange when my daughter will come and say Tabasco, and only her and I understand that she's coming up behind me with the dog to let the dog out, where I don't jump up and be ready to attack them. So that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why the toothpick, I sleep with it, I shower with it. I sometimes wake up in the morning, I'm getting ready to brush my teeth and it's still there. And I was like, what the heck? It's it's a part of my mental health to where I it calms me. It
Yeah.
really it keeps me focused.
Yeah.
And some people view it as I don't know, offensive that I
Distract.
have it,
Yeah.
or I don't
Yeah.
know how some people don't like it. Always say, why don't you take that toothpick out your mouth? And I tell them, you don't want me to take this toothpick out my mouth, because the next word that may come out my mouth, you will want me to put this toothpick back in there. So that's why I have this toothpick in
Yeah.
my mouth.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. So Doug, first of all, Michelle says hey, and she got you. And so Doug, what do you do for fun? I hope you know Michelle. So
So, what do I do for fun? I used to love to play softball and run 10Ks and do all that, but unfortunately, the battles from Iraq don't allow me to. But I still love karaoke. I ask my comrades when we just come to a Department of Michigan VFW hospitality event, and you'll see me up there at the mic. I've been doing it for now almost 30 years. And some songs I'm really good. Some songs I'm okay. And some songs you better put a box over your head when I'm trying it. That's really one of my biggest things. I mean, the other thing is community. It's all about community. I've born and raised in this town and of Jackson, Michigan, USA. I've been part of the JC's organization. I've belonged to Toastmasters, have for 22 years. And I guess part of my fun when I was going to Eastern Jackson Community College for my business administration and marketing work, and then on to Eastern Michigan, I participated in the Eastern Michigan Forensics Program, which, by the way, just a couple of days ago, finished third in the United States of America as one of the top 3 forensics programs. And if you're not familiar with forensics, it's speech and debate.
mm-hmm.
And being part of Eastern Michigan later in life, when I was told at 18 that I would not make it through the first semester, it's ironic that from 20 2009 through 2014, and then again from 2019 through 2020. I served on student government. I advocated for additional busing. I was a very strong supporter of Eastern Michigan athletics. And today I now do everything in the community. And we're getting ready to do a second ever in the history of Jackson, Michigan, a ruck to remember veteran suicides, August 24th here in Jackson. And it's important. It's important to keep a veteran's memory alive. I lost a past post commander from my VFW post last year while we were in Phoenix, Arizona for National Convention. So I have to be constantly engaged and doing something good for the community to feel that I still have value, still have my purpose. And the other part is I couldn't believe it, but I actually wrote a book that comes out later this summer, and it's 22 chapters of the good, bad, and ugly of my life.
Okay.
That's what I did for fun these last 5 years, is to sit down and wrote 263 pages of my life.
Well, I'm boring, so my fun is playing in the dirt. I'm a gardener, so that's what I do. I love to grow things. And I'll just leave it at that. If you need any garden, vegetables or flowers, let me know, because that's what my yard looks like. So we do those things for fun to get over the stressors and deal with those triggers. But here's sort of, I guess, more of a personal question. And panelists, please feel free not to answer the question if you choose not to. It's coming from our audience, and I think they're just trying to get some context into some of their situations. But have any of you been in any kind of therapy? And is it therapy a one-time thing? I think it's from someone who actually is either contemplating going into therapy, counseling, or something of that sort, and they're trying to figure out what that is all about. So have any of you been in any kind of therapy or any kind of counseling? Is it a one-time thing? Is it a continual thing? Again, our brothers and sisters in arms, they just want to get our perspective on what this therapy counseling thing is all about. Is it beneficial to them? Is it going to hurt them? Is it going to harm them? Are they going to have to commit themselves to this thing forever? Are they ever going to be well and whole? I think that's where that question is coming from. So, Tracy.
As far as being well and whole, you can be well and whole, but not the same. You're not going to go back to who you were before. It simply isn't possible. You can become a better version of yourself. And I do think that therapy can help with that if you find the right therapist. So if you start counseling with someone and it's just not working for you, don't hesitate to try somebody else, because you have to find the right therapist or it's not going to be effective. I don't think that it has to be a lifelong commitment. You do therapy until you're happy with where you're at. But make sure that it's the right therapist for you. Jump from therapist to therapist until you find the right one. Don't expect to be the same person that you were before the trauma. Just get to the point where you're happy with who you are now.
Yeah. Darren.
Yeah, well, therapy, there's many toolboxes to therapy. You got to start at the basics, understanding what type of therapy you're looking to get. Then after you open the toolbox and pick what you want to start with, work your way up. When you get to therapists, like Jay said, sometimes you may have to go through few people because you may not be compatible with your first therapist, your second therapist, your fourth therapist, because a lot of therapists are not veterans. They're people that's been clinically trained, but they don't understand situations sometimes that you're in because they're going by, like I've addressed them, their book knowledge, and it doesn't fit. So it may give you more stress. But trying to be whole, you're going to have to heal yourself while you're in therapy. I've learned in therapy, there's part of your brain that holds negative thoughts. And in my sections of therapy, I had one good therapist that visually showed me my thought process, where it was coming from, and how to replace that negative thought with something positive, something good. And the more that you replace positive with that negative thought, you kind to get that wholeness back inside you. But if you don't have someone to break it down to you and visually explain your your mental state and where it's coming from, if you don't understand what your problem is and what's causing your problem, you can't heal. And if you just trying to analyze a person and not understand what the person's visually feeling at that moment, because you're not listening to them, you're not hearing that person, you're not seeing that person, you can't help. So when you say, being whole again, you really got to fix yourself. But you at least going to therapy and talking to somebody, having a chance to express, get some of that stuff out. Okay, this is what's going on in my life right now. This is what's, triggering me. This is what I'm experiencing, stuff like that. Can you advise me now at this moment to get past, to overcome this feelings, the stressors, or my means or quality of life right now? And that's when you say therapy and therapists, like I said, there's toolbox. The number one that I went to, first one, was the toolbox for PTSD, understanding what it really is and what causes it and where it's coming from. Until we can understand what we're feeling and why we're feeling this and how we got this way, we cannot begin to heal, and nobody can begin to help you. And if that person that's trying to help you don't understand that because they never experienced it, it makes it kind of hard to help.
Yeah.
So
Thanks. Yeah.
it is beneficial to start. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Every individual's is different. There's no one shoe fits all for every veteran. Everybody is different. Everybody has a different issue, a different coping. Uh, how they come out it at the end is my thing. Every day I wake up, it's another day, it's another challenge, it's another battle. I'm meeting that challenge every day. I'm not giving up. I never gave up. I'm not gonna stop fighting. It's just not in me to give up. And that's what you have to understand when you're dealing with mental health. I don't see it as mental health. It's a condition that we was exposed to, trained to, and unexposed and untrained to deal with. So now we're just thrown back into the world dealing with things on our own, and nobody really knows how to help us because they wasn't there.
Right. Right. Yep. Thanks. Doug, have you been in therapy? And what do you think in terms of, is therapy a one-time thing? Is it a continual thing? Is it a lifelong thing?
So there's many forms of therapy. There's talk therapy, there's equine therapy that uses an EGALA method, there's hyperbaric oxygen treatment therapy that pumps 100% medical grade oxygen into your brain and helps heal the broken red blood vessels. In terms of my therapy, is why my second attempt occurred in February of 2001, because Doug chose when he wanted to go to therapy. It wasn't, well, you got to go every week. No. If Doug didn't feel like going, or Doug didn't want to pay that $95 out of his pocket to go, then Doug didn't go. Coupled with other things, perhaps the meds, resulted in that second attempt. Today, working in the field of mental health, everything is voluntary. However, it's like anything. You try to quit smoking, you try to lose weight, you try to do more of this or do more of that or give up this. Until you hit rock bottom in your life where you can't hit any farther and you finally accept the help, that's when you start to heal and you start to grow in a new dimension. Just like the butterfly. The whole purpose of metamorphosis of a butterfly is new life. And none of us have that same life that we had before. Yeah, we still have challenges. Yes, we still have triggers. We've learned how to compartmentalize a new way of life for all of us. For me and my PTS, I don't consider it a disorder, even though mental health professionals do. I wasn't born with post-traumatic stress. That occurred from all the trauma that I endured in my life. And then maybe a trigger to mine was being in Iraq. But therapy, you look at service dogs. Service dogs provide therapeutic value to the person that they are trained to serve. Just like we were trained to serve for our freedom, service dogs were trained to serve for that person that's attached to the leash or the harness. And my interpretation of therapy, it comes in all forms. And I think for the benefit of some or many of your listeners, Dr. Dallas, is you have to arrive at where you're tired of being on that merry-go-round, like I was. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of going around and round and round and round and round, because I got the same results. It didn't matter whether I went backwards or frontwards, I still got the same results. Until I fell off, jumped off, whatever you want to use the analogy, I finally moved from here slowly up to where I am today. I am 500% different person than I was August 7th, 1999, besides being alive. And that's by the grace of God, of course.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, our Facebook Live viewers, we have a list of phone numbers that can help you. If you have some concerns, some questions, distress, call those numbers. This talk is also co-sponsored by the Michigan Public Health Institute, and we appreciate their support of Women of Colors and Women of Colors' endeavor to make these talks known throughout our community. People have questions, they have concerns, and we're not the experts, but we know a little bit about some things, and so we're willing to share those tidbits of information with you. Now, most people, when they think about the military, they think that the only folks in the military are men. Well, unfortunately, Tracy and I are here to dissuade you from that perspective. And so, Tracy, what I want you to talk about here briefly is SHERO. What is SHERO? And what's going on with SHERO in the next few months?
Well, as you said, when people think about the military, they primarily think about males in the military. The female veteran population is an underserved population, both in the military and out. We're doing better. Things are improving. We're getting more attention on that issue, but we still need to do better yet. Moving into my command year at the district level, was talking with a couple of my line officers, and they said, "What do you want to do with your year?" Well, I wanted to put together a resource conference of sorts for female veterans to those of us that do know about the resources, we know how to access them, but there's a lot of female veterans out there that aren't aware that there are resources that are out there that are available to them. So I want to make sure as many women that I can get this information to, I do. Started from deciding to put together a Women's Veterans Resource Workshop, which will be September 8th at Crystal Gardens on Fort Street, Trenton. We will have a lot of speakers there, people to talk about women's mental health, military sexual trauma, suicide prevention, and various other. We'll have veteran service officers there to make sure that anybody that needs to take a look at how to get their benefits. Veteran service dogs there, and through the process of developing this resource workshop, made the decision and then made the jump to create a nonprofit organization to support female veterans, to provide health and education resources to these women, to make sure to try to spread as far as possible to get the information out there. These are the things that are available to you. So SHERO, which is the Service Women's Health and Education Resource Organization, SHERO for short, it was started like couple of months ago, and we're just getting our feet under us, but working towards making this resource workshop an annual thing, and really excited to continue to support my brothers and sisters.
Thank you. I'm trying. I was going to look for Miss Vicky. I'm not sure if we still have a little bit more time or if we're almost out of time. She hasn't come back into the picture yet, so since she's not here, we can still play. When the cat's away, we can play. So I want to ask you all a question about, first of all, where's your hometown? What branch of the service are you in? And why did you join the service? Okay, Tracy.
Hometown, I originally was born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. Currently reside in Newport, Michigan. You too?
Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Currently residing in Newport, Michigan. I did join the Army Reserves, actually. My family has always been military. My father, both my grandfathers, my uncles, all of the males in my family were always military. And I grew up, knowing that. And when I completed nursing school, we had a recruiting day where all the hospitals came to try to recruit us to come and work for them. and the Army was there, and they had me at hello. You said hi. I said, where do I sign? It's just something that, I was raised understanding that was, your duty to your country and that sort of thing. So yeah, you had me at hello. I signed, and that was all she wrote.
Yeah. Darren, hometown, what branch of service, and why did you join?
I guess hometown is Saginaw, Michigan. Branch of service, United States Army. I joined because I was in college and I got angry and needed a change of pace. And the Army was the fastest ticket out of here at the time. And then at that time, I didn't care. My family was in shock. They had a bet that I wouldn't last 2 weeks, that I'll be sent home or something. But it changed me. It structured me. I learned when I was in that I was not serving for the country. I was really serving for the people that I left behind, family, friends, the people that I care about. I was serving for them that they didn't have to do what I was doing, experience what I was experiencing. And so to give them a chance to live, to be safe, if it cost me my life at the time, so be it. I did it for them. And it took me a while to, after to realize why I really did serve or can continue to serve. And do it and did it for the people that I care about the most. It was not a patriotic move that I did, but it's something that I dearly to my heart and soul defend and love and proud of my service and United States Army.
Yep. Thank you. Doug, hometown?
Makers away, shipmate, lieutenant. I served in the United States Navy proudly as a boatswain's mate. A boatswain's mate is a person who paints the ship, ties it up, drives it, does all the janitor work so everybody else on the ship can enjoy themselves. Then I joined the Michigan Army National Guard in 1989. I wanted to make it a career in the Navy. However, the Navy couldn't guarantee anything in writing, so I got the chain out. And any of you who are not familiar with the short timer's chain in the Navy, it's 12 links, and you cut off every month. You cut off one less link in the military or in the Navy, and I used to cut that link off in front of my chief boatswain's mate, who was from Queens, New York, a lifer of the Navy. And during muster, every month, I would get permission, and he would put me in the paint locker, put me over the side on a boatswain's chair while we were out at sea steaming. But you know what? Still, time came. From Jackson, Michigan, I was born in the hospital that is now used in the 5th floor unit as our mental health lockdown unit. I was born in that original hospital because that was here in Jackson, the original hospital before the bigger hospital was built. So that's my 10 years, 7 months, and a handful of days of military experience between the U.S. Navy and the Michigan Army National Guard. However, I am a plank owner, which I helped commission the USS Dewart FFG 45, and I helped decommission the USS Mullinix DD 944, which if you ever got in Saginaw Bay, the Edson 946, that's a sister ship. So if any of your listeners live right there in the Saginaw Bay, spend the $10 or $12 and go on board, go up to the bridge, grab right a hold of that great big giant steering wheel they call a helm. And that's what I did at sea, was drive a Navy ship.
Well, I'm actually from Toledo, Ohio also. So Tracy, we're going to talk about where we were born and raised. I actually, I joined the Navy, and I actually joined because, well, see, I had 4 brothers and 4 sisters. So my oldest sister was in the Navy. My oldest brother was in the Navy. The next brother didn't go in. Then I went into the Navy. And then let me see, sister after me, she didn't do anything. The next sister she went to the National Guard. The next sister went to the Marine Corps. Then next to baby brother, he went to the Navy. And then my baby brother and baby sister, they joined the Navy very briefly. So we were all military, I think, because again, my dad volunteered to he actually was part again of the D-Day landing in Normandy. He volunteered to go into the Army before he was drafted. And we look at that as it was just something that we just did. My mother volunteered in DC. She was one of those great ladies that I can't talk about because they did stuff that, classified stuff. But anyway, so it was kind of like, I guess, in my blood to be a part of serving, not just, like Darren said, the patriotic thing, but just serving the community, serving my family. And yeah, if I did what I needed to do, then they didn't have to. And that's difficult to explain to people why you actually joined the service. But here's a question for us to think about.
And Dr. Dallas, I joined because I couldn't get entered into Eastern Michigan University, because remember, they told me that I wasn't good enough to come to their college in 1981. So I went in the Navy.
And then you went back into their college later. Yeah.
And on the dean's list at 43 years old with a 3.74 GPA.
Yeah, that's how we do it. We go back and prove that they're wrong. Okay.
I'd like to know the advisor. I'd like to see the advisor today.
One of our listeners wants to know how can they help veterans in today's society. They're talking about with mental health, the medical housing benefits, and if they're having any problems with any of these situations. And we have representatives here from our different of VFW services. How do what I don't want to call them, civilians, because we're all sort of civilians now, but how do people who are not directly connected with the military, how do they help us? How do they help veterans today? Tracy?
I guess I may be a little bit biased, but I think that the veteran service organizations like the VFW, I mean, we're not the only one. You have the American Legion, you have the AMVETS, but the veteran service organizations do so much to support veterans. And it's not just a social club. There's so much more to it than that. We're in Congress, we're fighting for legislation to support veterans, and we're supporting veterans on the local level as well. My post just has helped out so many veterans in the local community. So we're doing it both on the federal level and at the local level. I think that the veteran service organizations are the best way to help to support veterans. If you're an eligible veteran, if you're eligible to join the VFW, if you had combat service, then join. And if you have a family member that's eligible, then you can join the auxiliary. And if not, you can just support, show up, help out, donate, whatever you can do. The VA is a source that you can go to talk to. But I think that, like I said, I'm a little bit biased. I lean towards the VFW. If you have a veteran in need, or you have a veteran in crisis and you don't know where to turn, contact your local VFW, contact your local American Legion, your local AMVETS, and they will at least be able to start the process to provide you the resources to get that veteran to where they need to be.
What about homeless vets? Why are there's so many quote unquote homeless vets? Darren? I mean, what do we do with homeless vets? How can we help them?
like Tracy said, there's so many veteran organizations, the VFW, American Legions, Marine Corps League. We're all working, trying to combat the homeless vet with the VA, the government. A lot of veterans, homeless veterans, are civilians that trans back into the world without support. They served, left their families behind, and came back, and their house was not upkept because they was not there to support it. A lot of them come back, to situations where they have nothing to come back to. They have no real, you hear people in society say, what about homeless vets, but do nothing to help homeless vets. They put the word out there that, okay, they see this veteran that he's homeless. And then in my view and my scene, sometimes you have fake homeless vets out there. Before, when there was a homeless vet out there that started off that really genuinely needed help and put up a sign and stood there and asked for help, to seeking help, then people in society saw that and tried to capitalize on it, and it diminished the service for the veterans that was really in need. I don't ran into people out there that's standing out there all day holding a sign, and they'll see you walk with your hat on, your military hat, or somehow say, hey, I was a vet, and you question them. You're not a vet. You're out here, you're doing a disservice to what we're trying to do to help the veterans that's in need. And then you come out here and you took that food, you took that service, you took that bed away from that veteran that really needed it and deserved it. You, society, and the community that we live in, the city councils and stuff like that, they have to, the taxes that veterans pay, that every American pays and stuff like that, with relief funds that the state have and stuff, they gotta start generating some of this funds to help the homeless vet. They need housing. They need support. The mental, some veterans, they don't want to ask for help. They need help, but they are bitter for the way that they were treated, the way that they were dismissed and discarded in some point, to where they won't use their military benefits and things like that because they're resentful and bitter. But still yet, the community sees them but does nothing to help but just point the finger at the VA and why we're not doing nothing for veterans. And the VFW and other organizations are working hard behind the scenes trying to help get veterans off the street, trying to get them into job placements, trying to get them into gainful employment, and trying to get them into housing. But if the community as whole don't support them as people of the community, then what do you expect anyone else to do?
Yeah, one of the things I see is that if an organization wants to create a temporary veteran shelter or something of that sort, people always say, well, you can do it over there, but don't do it in my neighborhood. So, that's part of it. You say you want to support vets, homeless vets, but then when there is an initiative to do so, you push back. So, and again, that's not everyone, but there are people who, again, want to support vets. They want to understand how to help homeless vets. But then there are other people who are pushing back. So maybe it's one of those things where we have to do some education for our civilian population to get them to understand the needs of vets. And just because you see one homeless vet on a corner doesn't mean that all the, as you were saying, Darren, all the homeless people are veterans. There may only be 1 out of 100 homeless veterans, but when you see homeless people, you just assume they're veterans. So I think part of that is education, getting people to understand that there are differences in terms of homeless people versus homeless veterans. We also know that veterans have, again, not necessarily issues, but problems adjusting back to civilian society. But also think about this, my panelists. When you came back from your service, how were you received by your civilian jobs, your supervisors, your managers? How were you received? You just came out of the service. You had a structured life. You had a uniform that, well, for me, frankly, I love being in the Navy because I didn't have to worry about what I was going to wear the next day. Okay. Didn't have to worry about what I was going to eat. They fed you. But when you come back to civilian life and you come back with all the skills, the experiences, the knowledge that you have, when you get that job, how are you treated? Doug, think back to that first job that you had when you came back into civilian life. How are you treated?
Well, the first time I came back and went back to a restaurant from the Navy. When I got out of the Navy, I went back and actually became a cook. I guess thanks to my mess cooking time in the Navy, I became a cook for a few years. The second time, because 20 years ago, this very moment, I was in Balad, Iraq, Camp Anaconda. The second time I came home, I was voluntarily homeless, meaning I had places to go, but I chose not to, and I slept in my vehicle for almost 5 months before I sought housing. And how was I treated the second time? I gave up as a business owner. I owned my own lawn and landscape business for 10 years. So I gave that up when I deployed. And unfortunately, because of my injuries from Iraq, I wasn't able to return to doing that. So I was kind of one of those lost out in the middle of the ocean with no signal to broadcast. A few seconds ago, it was brought up about homeless veterans that don't identify as an actual veteran. I know that in Detroit, the Paquette House, because I did a study, I did a nonprofit communication class at Eastern, and I learned about the Paquette House that houses 900 veterans and teaches them transitional skills to get them out of that current situation. And currently, just yesterday and today, the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency, Dr. Brian Love and his whole leadership attended a 2-day homeless conference where the governor has actually put into her 25 budget $1.3 million to start attacking this, because Director Love's, his primary initiative is to work with this homeless problem of veterans. Everybody has a choice to be homeless or not. Some get thrown out, some choose to for 100 reasons, but what people can do is organizations that want to come to these resource fairs. For example, my VFW 423 in Ann Arbor, we're sponsoring May 18th all day. We're sponsoring a mental health resource fair. We invite any organization that has the interest of the veteran and their families at heart. We invite them to get a hold of me and schedule to come in and provide a resource. We want to provide as many resources as we possibly can this year. My team, Commander Napoleon, incoming state commander, we're going to have a team. We're going to start attacking the problems of the veteran in the state of Michigan.
Yeah. Tracy, when you think about homeless shelters and homeless housing in the Detroit area, and as Doug even alluded to, um, do people know that those homeless shelters can also house veterans? Or do people assume that those are two separate things? You're either homeless and a veteran or just homeless. What is the premise or the understanding in your area about taking care of homeless veterans, and how does the public support those efforts?
So, as you said, a homeless veteran is able to be housed in any of the available options. There are a couple of places that are specifically geared towards veterans. I know that Doug mentioned one. Another one is the Emmanuel House, also in the Detroit area. And these organizations, these are geared, I'm not sure about the one that Doug said, but geared specifically towards veterans. They're unique. They're different.
Mm-hmm.
They have often different reasonings, different behaviors, things that have gotten them to this, this situation. So they need different treatment, different resources, and that sort of thing to help them get through this. So yes, they can be housed in any homeless organization, but there are ones that in the Detroit area and in probably other areas as well that are geared specifically towards veterans, and it would be a more beneficial option to be amongst people that can provide specific resources directed towards the veteran themselves.
Mm-hmm. Doug was talking about Piquette House. There's a homeless veterans coordinator here in the Saginaw area. If anyone wants to jot that number down, it's area code 989-497-2500. That's the homeless veterans coordinator here in the Saginaw area. And it should be showing up on our little ticker here soon. Please keep in mind that if you're looking at watching us over Facebook Live, there is a ticker that we have some numbers there for you to use if you need to. And that includes our civilians who are also watching our show. If you know people, veterans who you believe may need some assistance or help, please don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Call those numbers and ask them, how can you help that veteran? Okay, because we're all in this together. We were born in this country, we were raised in this country, we served the country. Some of us served in uniform, some did not, but we are still part of our all communities, and we need to take care of each other. So I would say I have another question, but I actually don't. So I have a question that popped up from, was it Sharina Johnson? And she's asking, would any of you be interested in being our guest at our annual Veterans Appreciation and Dinner at New Covenant Christian Center in Saginaw, Michigan on November 10th, 2024 at 10 a.m. And for you, Sharina, thank you for the open invitation. Does that mean a free meal? And do we have to talk? I'm sorry. What?
We gotta sing for our supper?
Is that a free meal? I'm always asking. Yes. And Carol Hartman Gilbert says, thank you for your service and for sharing your story. Very informative. We thank you for listening. It's always a challenge when you are a military veteran and you speak to people about the service, and if they don't have a family member or friend who's been in the service, what do they automatically think about? They automatically think about that movie that they just saw where that homeless veteran or that veteran came back and they're still, having PTS, not D, but PTS scenarios running through their brains. And so that's how they're going to react in any type of situation. And I hope that our our guests tonight listening to us have realized that no, we're pretty much normal people. We do things that we need to do to serve, not only when we were in the service, but also we serve back home. And I think that's why the majority of folks who joined the military joined, because they wanted to serve. And that service never ends for us. We're always volunteering, always willing to do anything. It's just part of who we are. We may not have that uniform on anymore. We may not be walking around in cadence with everyone else, but we are here to support, to serve, to share, to be of service. So I'm going to we've got 3 minutes. Okay. Oh, Sharina said no free. Oh, she said we do have a free meal, and no, you don't have to talk. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. But one last question I want to ask all my guests here, my hostess, my panelists. And first of all, I appreciate you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and talk with our audience, to share with our audience, to share your insights. What is one thing that you would like to share with our veterans who are listening, with our civilian brothers and sisters who are listening, about who you are and what you represent and what you look at in terms of being of service to your community? Share those insights with us. Tracy?
For me, it's the VFW. The VFW, like one of the slogans is
And what is
still
VFW?
serving. Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States. Yes. Sorry. One of our slogans is still serving. Like we're continuing to serve. We've served our country. Now we're serving our brothers and sisters. So, that's my identity right now, actually, is, the VFW and supporting and just continuing to help other veterans.
Darren, those little few words of insight or wisdom from you.
Well, helping other veterans is helping yourself heal while you're still serving. You learning to heal, yourself. You're still on the journey together, and give till it hurts. The more that you give back, the better you feel, and the better the world just seems. Like Tracy said, we're still serving. And the more that you do for veterans, you help them, and they're going to help the next veteran. And if we don't get this chain rolling, then it's just going to break.
Yeah. Doug, words of wisdom, insights from you?
Comrades, brothers and sisters in arms, right now, one of you may be listening. You may be throwing in the towel and deciding tonight is your last night to live. Know that you matter. Know that you still have purpose. That purpose has to be discovered. It's not worth giving up. I wear these bands to remind that the demons within, the war within, is still alive, but I keep the demons at bay. And know this to be a beacon for hope, helping one person every day. Dr. Dallas?
Thank you all for sharing the stage with me. Thank you, Women of Colors, for offering this time for us to speak to not only our veterans, but also our civilian brothers and sisters who've supported us as veterans and continue to help us and work with us as we continue to serve in the community. And so I'll turn it back over now to Ms. Vicki Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Dallas. Oh my God, this was absolutely wonderful. I want to thank all of you who participated tonight. Dr. Dallas, you did a phenomenal job. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Tracy. Your stories were amazing. I loved them. You gave out so much rich information that we need. You know, there are a lot of veterans out there who may not know all of the different services that are available to them. And this is a way that we can get the word out to them. Women of Colors is all about helping in our community. You know that. We're all about getting that information out to help that next person. And the information you gave was absolutely phenomenal. And I tell you what, I had to hold back the tears when Doug started talking about when he raised his arm up and showed those bands and said, if you felt like you wanted to end tonight, this was your last night on earth, don't do it. Don't throw in the towel. Hold on. Help is on the way. I had to hold the tears back. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm just going to flood with tears. But you know what? God is so able. He's so able. And there are people that are willing to help. Look at the numbers that are scrolling on the bottom of this screen. All of these numbers, this is information for you. Use it. Don't let it just scroll there. If you need it, use it. If you need help, reach out to someone. There's help out there. That's what we're trying to get across. Thank you, all of the panelists, for all that you did. You did a phenomenal job. And I want to just read this for you, Dr. Dallas. Sharina Johnson said, yes, there is a free meal for you. And she said, actually, it's catered meal for you and your family. So you can bring the family along. And you'll also receive a gift. So now, you know, that's good love, right? Yeah. So you know what? Take advantage of whatever you can take advantage of. Once again, I want to thank you, Women of Colors, and all that are part of Women of Colors. We are just trying to do our best. I want to give you just a couple of items that are coming up. That's coming up really quickly. First of all, Women of Colors in Delta College presents our Women Wellness Expo, Mind, Body, Soul. It's happening on Saturday, March the 18th, and it's going from 9:30 until 3. You know, so we've got a whole lot of speakers that are going to be speaking on everything that's happening with your mind, your body, and your soul. We even have a fitness person that's going to be in the building, and that's Bodies by Ron. He's going to be there with his class, and he's going to teach us how to get our bodies into shape. Then we've got people that are going to talk to us about our mind and our body, okay, and our soul. We've got a keynote speaker, which is Miss Elizabeth Ann Atkins. So if you would look her up, she is an author, and she has a lot of books out there, a lot of self-help books, a lot of encouraging books. So look it up. Elizabeth Ann Atkins. She's going to be there. So please join us at the Downtown Delta Center. It's free. It won't cost you a dime. All you've got to do is show up. That's what we've got coming up next, May the 18th. All right. That's the Women's Wellness Expo. So I want to thank you all for listening in. And here is another that we received. It says you're invited. Bring your DD-214 certificate of release or discharge from active duty if not enrolled for your VA health care. All right. They want to see you. They say join us for a PAC Act healthcare enrollment event for veterans and your families. It's happening at the Elda E. Lutz VAMC Pavilion, located at 1500 White Street here in the city of Saginaw, April the 29th, few days from now, right? From 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. You're invited to go to that as well. Once again, from Women of Colors, I am Vicki Hill. I am the Vice Chair of Women of Colors, and also from KISS 107.1, an Alpha Media station, your gospel host on Sunday mornings. We want to thank you for all that you are listening to tonight. For all of you who have listened in, who have watched us, we want to thank you. We are Women of Colors. We are just loving our community from the inside out. Good night.